Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Mad Men Podcast, your podcast dedicated to the AMC television show Mad Men, where you can find your best source for news, talk, and more. My name is Jeremiah, and I'm joined by Elise. Hello, Elise. How you doing?
Hey, Jeremiah. I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing great. We are here, of course, to review the mid-season finale of Mad Men Season 7. I don't know about you, but I'm a little bit upset about that.
I know.
It's a little bit.
I plan on drinking heavily later today.
Yes, exactly. Pull a little Don Draper and have a little bit too much to drink, right?
Why not?
Yeah, why not?
What could go wrong?
So, for all those of you, of course, that are joining us live, welcome. We appreciate you coming in and joining us live. There is a chat room going on right now at madmenpodcast.com/live if you want to join in on that. If you're listening to the archives, great. Glad to have you here. We will be, of course, reviewing this episode that I found to be very, very delightful and a very nice end to this half of Season 7. So we're going to be doing that. And now, of course, at the top of this podcast, we also are going to be doing our giveaway, our DVD giveaway that we've had some great response, by the way, Elise. I have had double the amount of entries for the DVD than we did for the Dow, which I was a little surprised. I thought the Dow would be a bigger draw. So... But, part of it might be is just, I think people are really getting caught up now with the season, so I think maybe early on a lot of people weren't quite ready for the podcast just yet, and I think that now people are kind of really into it at the moment, and maybe people are finally caught up and like, whoa, I want to make sure I get part of this giveaway. That could be part of it. I don't know. But whatever the reason is, we've got a lot of names in here. I'm going to be drawing one of those pretty soon. If you would like to get in on our question portion of the podcast, you are more than welcome to do that. I got a lot of different ways you can do that. I do have a thread I just opened up on Facebook, which we do have one question on there. You can always tweet us at MadmenCast using the hashtag MMCast, so we can get your question that way. You can click on the video itself and put a question actually on the video, or you can leave a comment in the comment section on the video if you're watching this on YouTube. So there's your ways you can answer questions. We will have that segment coming up as we get done with our review. But before we do all of that, I did want to mention real quick, Elise, I don't know if you had an opportunity, but I recently, last week, got a great opportunity to talk to Stephanie Drake, who plays Meredith on Mad Men last week. It was great. Did you get a chance to listen to that interview yet?
I did. That was really good. It was really fun to listen to her talk about getting the part and just the whole journey from beginning to now.
Yeah, she was real sweet to talk to. Very, very nice. I really enjoyed our time together doing the interview. She was even really nice whenever I attempted to pull a joke on her, and she at first didn't quite get the joke, but she was really nice not to basically tell me that please keep the comedy to professionals. She could have said that to me, but she didn't. It was so terrible. But you know what? I left it in there because I thought it was funny because it shows that I really have I really should not be telling jokes. Is basically what it came down to. But she was extremely nice to me. So thank you, Stephanie, again for coming back or coming on to the podcast. We really appreciate that. If you are listening to this right now and you're like, whoa, I'd like to hear this interview. Just go to madmenpodcast.com/077 and you'll find that interview on there. It was really delightful, about a half an hour long, and she opened up and talked about a lot of stuff. It was so funny because we were sitting here talking, and I'm sure she would have loved to tell me about the big scene that she had with John Hamm in this episode, which I'm sure we're going to talk about. Me and her joked about maybe the two, maybe Don Draper and Meredith will end up together, so that was kind of funny when I saw this fake scene with her kissing him. I was like, oh my goodness. It was great. So yes, please definitely check out Stephanie's interview. Of course, I also had the interview up there on episode 75, I think it is, for Kit Williamson. So make sure you check that out. He plays Ed Guilford on the show. So we've had some interviews, and I'm really working hard, at least, to try to get us some more interviews. There's many other actors I would love to talk to on the show. So if you're subscribed to our podcast, I do not have the interviews on the video version, but I do plan in the off season to try to do that. So those of you who prefer just to only watch this on YouTube and could care less about the audio version, I will try to get some of those interviews up there on a video version as well. Obviously, it won't have any video of her, but it will just be the audio of it. But at least that way you can watch it on YouTube if you want to. But really, make sure you save, subscribe, especially the audio version, because we will have, hopefully, some more interviews down the road. So with that said, Elise, I don't know about you, but I'm excited. We are about ready to do the big drawing.
Should I do the drum roll?
If you want, should we do a drum roll? So everybody can see. I want to make sure that we're in this fair. I got my hat. Fantastic. Okay, I'm going to do it. Since you're doing so much effort here. All right, I'm drawing a name out right now. Here we go. This is the lucky winner.
And the winner is...
And the winner is Ginger McCord from Houston, Texas. Ginger, congratulations! Yay! How about that, man? Oh man, you know this. I'm telling you, this hat. I can't show you the video very well, but this hat is full of names. I was really, really touched by all the people that got involved with the DVD giveaways. Thank you, everyone. This is just to go out to you guys for being so nice to us this off season, and making sure that you had an opportunity to thank you for this. And so there you go. We will, of course, hopefully have some things to give away next season. That's what we're hoping for. We'll see what can happen with that. But otherwise, thank you so much, everyone, for listening to the podcast. We really appreciate that. Now, Elise, we have so much to talk about. I really do not want to waste any time. So if you don't mind, let's just jump. We're going to skip the gossip section for this particular episode only, and let's just jump right into our review, okay?
Sounds good.
All right, let's do it. All right, so this episode, of course, is named Waterloo, and it was the 7th episode of Season 7, which was written by Carly Waver and Matthew Weiner, and directed by Matthew Weiner, and aired on AMC on May 25th, 2014. Elise, me and you haven't had a chance to talk off air yet or anything, so I'm really excited to hear. What was your overall feeling about this episode?
I thought it was great. I mean, it felt like really like every character evolved. Like you saw some movement in their development. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really a good episode. Very strong.
Yeah, I feel the same way as you did. It was really, really good. To me, we had 2 back-to-back 5 old-fashioned episodes for me. I thought, obviously, I mentioned last week how much I love the strategy, but I also really thought Waterloo was really outstanding as well. There was very little I had to complain about the episode, and I think that one of the things was so nice, not just the way they, of course, obviously they incorporated everything that was going on with the moon landing, I mean, which was, of course, one of the biggest events still to this day in the history of the world, really. And I loved how, of course, obviously tied it in, and then we also get so many big moments. I mean, you know, from Don and Megan's relationship ending to Bert's death, to the company now being basically going to be owned by McCain Erickson, which I would have never dreamed that to happen. Roger's now going to be in charge. So many things happen, and Don Draper himself really showing us in this episode that he's willing to really make some serious changes to hopefully open up his relationships even further and maybe really make a difference in the ones of the people that he's closest to. I just thought everything, the way they tied everything together was so nice, and it just was really an outstanding episode.
Absolutely.
I can tell you one thing I did learn from this episode, though, Elise, is that when I get older, I plan to never, ever mention Napoleon.
Yeah, I'm already being careful about that myself.
Yes, we should really watch that as we get older, because apparently, according to Roger, you know, when old people start mentioning Napoleon, they wind up dying.
I thought that was funny. It was kind of meta too, because like they're mentioning it in the final season of Mad Men that's kind of dying, and I thought that was funny.
Oh yeah, it was extremely funny. That was great, because with so much drama in this episode, there was still areas where we were able to laugh, despite all the really down things that was going on in the episode throughout the whole thing. And that's kind of where I want to kind of begin with, if you don't mind. I'd like to kind of start with Don's day, or a collection of days here, because it really things did not go well from him throughout this episode until the very end, when Roger pulls his little trick out of his own bag there and gets this deal done. But things were really not
coming apart.
It was kind of hard to watch, wasn't it?
It was a little squirmy. It was like I think just because you never know when he's going to just go off the rails, like what thing is going to be the thing that he's just like, oh, forget it, I'm just going to go get hammered. And that he never really did that was a testament to the fact that he's kind of committed to doing a better job. So it was great.
Yeah, I like that. I really did too, because I think it just shows more growth from Don Draper, which is what all of us fans have been wondering about all season long, and we've seen a little bit as time has gone on from every episode, and in this episode really showed that. One of the things I thought right away when we see Don involved with the Burger Chef pitch, and they're having their meeting about it, right off the bat we find out that they've really honed their strategy that they had from the previous episode to their perfect pitch they're going to go with. And I noticed that Peggy, of course, puts Don back as the lead to do the pitch, which I thought, I know that's one of the things we were kind of wondering what was going to happen with that. But I think it kind of shows that, to me, it really seemed like the two of them were really a team, in this thing, and that they really are working very, very well together. Basically, things didn't fall apart after what we had seen in the strategy.
Right. No, I think she was always, I think, going to keep him as the main presenter because that's what all the men folk were telling her to do. So, I wasn't surprised to see that, but it did seem like when Pete was like, "Is that how you're going to introduce him?" and she was like, "No, we're doing a shorthand here. I was going to say all these nice things that then she goes on to say." So it seems like they both kind of made their peace with each other after their dancing last week, and they're good. They're back on track. Like Peggy says later, I thought everything was normal again.
Yeah.
So I think she really did. I think everybody was kind of hoping like, all right, we're putting this thing back together. We're gonna take the band back on the road, and then a hiccup.
Yeah, just a little one. Just a little
one.
So obviously the first bad news that Don finds out about is the fact that he gets a letter from that Meredith gives him about the fact that they said that he's breached a contract and that they were going to let him go. So the first question I have for you is, though, setting up this scene where we get this letter, which clearly, obviously, Jim was the primary person that put this together. Jim's reasoning, yeah, the only person. That's right. Apparently, right? Exactly. What do you think the reasoning for Jim to move forward immediately with this? Because that what happened at that boardroom, that meeting, that happened quite a while ago, right? I mean, time has kind of gone on, and yet nothing's been brought up, and all of a sudden now he's bringing it up. So there was two things, of course, happens in this before we find out about the letter. One of them, of course, is that Jim has this moment with Ted when he realizes Ted wants out, and then he also hears from Lou about the fact that Commando Cigarettes that is pulling out. They're not going to have that account. So do you think it was more of the news about the cigarettes that Jim said, that's it, he's got to go, or was he concerned about his friend, Ted wanting out, that he's thinking, oh man, hold on, I got to get Don out of here, so that way Ted will realize, hey, we really need you around here. What do you think? What do you think was or it was maybe both?
I don't know. It's hard for me, especially like in this episode. It seems like everybody's always yelling at Cutler. Like, he's just, like Lou comes in and just flips out at him, and then Cutler kind of loses his patience with him too, which I don't feel like we see all that much except for with Don. And tells him, you're just a hired hand, get back to work. We don't owe you anything. Which of course I think like people around America applauded, somebody yelling at Lou. And then the whole thing with Ted, that Ted's completely unraveling in much the same way that Don did, and that Cutler holds against Don, but he loves Ted, or he has whatever his feelings are for Ted, and so he's trying to protect him, I think, a little bit, and I think he knows that I think he feels like, I've got to get rid of Don now, because if they find out how, messed up Ted is now, they're not going to want to get rid of Don, because then we'll be shorthanded, and Ted's a disaster. So I think he feels like the pressure to do it now that he went more or less behind all the other partners' backs and just sent that letter on the assumption that, well, we all agreed to this, and he dropped in on the Commander Cigarette meeting, which is against the rules. he felt justified in doing that, but I think he knew that he was crossing the line on that one.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of felt like it could have just been a little bit of both of these things coming down at the same time. But that's what was my initial reaction with this thing. I was thinking, oh no, he does not want his only closest friend, Ted, to leave. I mean, he would be really alone at that point, I would think. So I kind of felt like it was a lot of that. I don't want to gloss over. We do have to talk just for a second. What did you think about Meredith giving him the news, giving Don the news?
Meredith is Don's strength. She's going to take care of her man. God bless her. She's adorable. She's so cute. And she like moves in for her kiss, and she's like, yes, we can't do it right now. She's like playing a scene from a movie. I love her. She's adorable. She's hysterical.
She is adorable.
I don't know how Don's going to keep her at arm's length.
I don't know. I love how Don at the end, after the kiss and everything, he was like, he's telling her, you know, you could get my lawyer on. She asked, what can you do? What can I do for you? He's like, well, get my lawyer on the phone, and we can't do this. It was priceless. That was so great.
No, but her comeback was like, you're right, we can't do this now. Like there's gonna be some big love affair between them later.
Yeah, in her head, they're still gonna be together. I know.
I don't think she's Don's type.
Yeah. One of the next powerful scene I thought during this whole segment has to do when Don confronts Jim himself. Jim was, he was just brutal to Don. I thought.
God. Yes.
Brutally honest to him, to the point, especially when he ends with him saying the only time you did anything remotely interesting was when you babbled on like a child about your childhood. I was like, oh man.
And you can see that hurt Don, like on his face. He was like, I'm gonna cry or sock you. And Jim's like, go ahead, hit me. That would make everything easier. And I was like, I'll hit him. I'm ready.
I know. I was like, hit him.
I know. So bad. Don't hit him, Don. Don's more responsible than we are.
Don was way more responsible. I don't know how much I would have controlled myself there. But again, this is more of Don's growth, because I think old Don might have done something really stupid there, and he did not. So.
He was furious. He came in screaming, and you know, he was not sugarcoating anything. And then just like storming out of his office down to Roger's office, and the music that they used, it was like almost like a military. It was fantastic. March or something. It was just like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? What's he gonna do? And like flinging open the door and get out here, yelling at Roger and getting all of them out there to face the music was just like, oh my God, what's gonna happen?
Yeah, I love that. I love how they chose to do that. It was perfect. Like you said, it felt like some kind of war scene, like somebody's about ready to get killed. It was just very dramatic, and I really enjoyed that. And you could just feel the tension in the office. He was causing a lot of people to be very uneasy at the moment. Calling and screaming everybody out there. Yeah, that was
Joan!
Great. Yeah, Joan, really get out of here. Pete, somebody get Pete over here.
It's like, oh God, it's going to go up.
Right. Now, at that point when we have this moment where we're seeing everybody weigh their opinion in, and then we actually have a vote right there in the middle of front of Roger's office. We have this vote. At that point, though, I'm still thinking, this still is not good, right? Were you thinking, well, maybe this will be the end of it? Because I know I wasn't thinking that.
Yeah, I didn't understand exactly. As soon as it was obvious, like, everybody didn't know about it, I was like, all right, well, that's not copacetic. And then also with the vote, I didn't quite understand if all the partners have an evenly weighted vote, because they all have different, like definitely Roger and Bert have a larger percentage of the company. So does their vote count for more than, say, Joan's vote, who only has like 5%? I wasn't sure about that, but it seemed like they were playing it as though everybody had an equal vote as far as, raising your hand and just voting for something. So, right. I don't know. I'm surprised every time they start talking about that, and Cutler's like, well, now Harry's as soon as Harry's partner, then we're going to push you out. And it's like, I don't know that Harry would vote that way, but they all seem to think they know how Harry would vote. And Don never seems to correct anyone about it, unless maybe he wants to keep him as his spy or something, I don't know. But I was shocked that Joan voted against him. And I love that they called her Benedict Joan later in the episode.
Yeah.
It's like, that was not nice.
I think when it comes to this particular scene, I think that is the one scene, that's the one part of the scene I think that most people were talking the most about, from what I can tell. And it's something we kind of actually got some questions about this a little bit, is that Joan taking the side against Don. You know, one of the questions we have on Facebook from Margarine, she asked about us to really kind of maybe indulge a little bit of that, about why do we think Joan seems to be so much against. I mean, I do think that Bert was correct in the fact that, yes, she's upset about the fact that they lost so much money, because when they were going to go public, you know, Don kind of messed that up after losing Jaguar and stuff. But, I mean, one, that was quite a while ago, and you would think by now maybe does she have any loyalty at all to Don? Because, you know, so much of this episode, and actually quite a few of our episodes this season, been about the discussion about loyalty and how everyone's sticking together. And this episode, of course, directly is that, was it out of character do you think it's out of character for Joan to be holding this much grudge this long?
I don't know. I don't know if it's so much. I mean, Joan never straight out says, like, she doesn't, it's not about Don, it's about her. It is what I feel like she always says, like, you know, he brings so much hassle into the office, and he makes our work so much more difficult, and everything, we never know, you know, who we're getting when he's here. And she's supporting herself and her mother and her child, and I think she just wants a regular safe paycheck, and she doesn't want to have to be beholden to any more sweaty old men or Bob Benson or, you know, anybody else. She wants security, and I think she feels like Don doesn't help that when he's there. She feels less secure with him working on stuff than other people, even if their work isn't as good. So, and I don't know, maybe she's a little beholden to Cutler for giving her the office. I don't know. She, you know, her whole part in that scene where she's like, well, I've seen it, and he's like, well, why did you say what's going on then? And then she admits that she hadn't seen it after he leaves, and that she's just up for anything that gets rid of him. So, but then she tells Cutler, like, you shouldn't have done that. That was badly done. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. I feel like it's just her not feeling secure financially. And, you know, as soon as it's like, oh, we're all going to get, you know, a million and change from this buyout thing, she's fine with Don being there. She doesn't have any problem with Don being there. If she's going to get $1 million, then she's like, fine. 5 years, I can do 5 years for $1 million and have my security, you know, set for life.
Okay, well, that's pretty much that's exactly what I was thinking too. I mean, honestly, if you put yourself in her shoes, and the position she's in as a woman who's, like you said, raising a child by herself, it does come down to the money sometimes. It's not that she doesn't really necessarily hate Don, but like you said, she probably likes Don fine as a friend, but, you know, when it comes to a colleague that could potentially could be hostile and dangerous to their environment, and maybe cause her to continue to lose even more money, or lose the security that she has right now as a partner, I can understand that. I mean, yes, we love Joan, and we hate to see her be too negative in certain things or whatever, but I think I think you hit it right on. I think that's exactly what's going on with Joan, and I don't know if it's necessarily uncharacteristic to her character. I think in the position her character is in now, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Good.
I like how she quick, by the way, went right after Harry. When Harry started fighting, he goes, "You're not a partner yet." And did you notice that Ken was smiling when he said
Ken
that?
was like, "Yay, you're not a partner yet."
Yeah.
And they both kind of walk off.
Well, because, if you think about it, if you're in Ken's position, Ken's been a very important, vital part of this company as well. And I'm not saying that his part necessarily isn't more important than what Harry has brought with his media stuff, but he's got to have some resentment towards Harry. And so I thought it was great when Harry was like smiling at him, going, "Ha ha, you loser."
It was. Well, and Pete Pete keeps Ken down. That was all part of, his deal when he came in, was that, that
Yeah.
Ken should stay below him. That's
Yes.
an ongoing rivalry.
Right. Exactly. Well, the next big thing, of course, after all that blows over, the next terrible thing that happens to Don is his phone call with Megan. I don't know about you. I didn't see this coming down just this way. So, just very, very little excitement. No big blow-ups, no nothing. It was just a simple little phone call and a mutual agreement that, yeah, things aren't working out for us, and it's best this way. Were you
I
surprised
thought it
by
was.
that?
I was kind of surprised that I thought maybe she'd stick around more, and maybe we will still see her in the second half of the season. But I thought when I rewatched it, and they were talking about his experience at Sterling Cooper and Partners, and he was saying, I thought if I just kept my head down and did a good job, that it would be okay, and that they would keep me. But I think, and I don't know what they want or something. And she says, well, what do they want? And he says, they want me to move on. And she says, well, aren't you tired of fighting? And at that point, I was like, who are they talking? Are we still talking about your job, or are we talking about you two? Because every episode this season, they get into some huge, nasty fight. They sound like they're breaking up, and then the next episode starts, and they're back together. And then by episode end, they've been in a big, nasty fight again. So I think we talked about that earlier too, that it seems like they were sort of in the end of the relationship mode. So I'm not surprised that it ended. I'm surprised that there weren't a little bit more fireworks, that it was just kind of like on the phone, and it was like, do you want me to move to California? And she was like, I'm going to drink my wine and let you absorb what's happening here. And him just being like, okay. And then, they were really nice to each other. He was like, I'll take care of you. And she was like, you don't have to take care of me. And he's like, I owe you that much. And she's like, you don't owe me anything. I thought it was really nice. It was just sort of, it's all good. This, is just fizzled out, and let's just both go on our ways, and we'll stay friends or whatever, hopefully. We'll see what happens when the divorce comes through.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it any better. That's kind of the way I felt, and I think it was a nice way to end it, because I think a lot of people were expecting something big. Even myself, I got suckered into it. Even last week with the whole thing with her taking all her stuff, and I thought, oh, we're gonna have some big scene. He's gonna show up in LA, a surprise visit at the top of the episode, and she was gonna be sleeping with somebody, But this makes more sense, and I think Matthew did a nice job.
And it kind of figures into the Manson thing, because they are killing her off the show, not actually killing her, but she's not going to be on the show anymore. And the first Manson family killing happens within a couple days of the moon landing. I think it's 3 days after the moon landing. So maybe she still actually gets killed, but perhaps they were just kind of giving us a little Easter egg of she will no longer be with us around the same time.
Well, do you so that's your, so what do you think? We are for sure going to see Megan again, because I think we probably will.
I don't know. Sometimes it's hard. I would think in a normal show we would see her again, but I wouldn't put it past Matt Weiner to just be like, we don't need to cover that. He likes to just kind of gloss over some of the, BS. And I think, he's going to be focusing on, them building their personal relationships now that they've organized the whole work thing. This part, I think the last part will be them all developing emotionally, hopefully, a little bit more. So I don't know, maybe we'll see her a little bit. I don't think she'll have a huge part.
I don't think Don has any desire necessarily to go back to California anytime soon. I think if we saw her, it would be a brief phone call, checking in on her, see how she's doing.
Yeah, he says as much to Pete when Pete's like, you come out to California, and he's like, yeah, there's no reason for me to go there, and Pete's like, what about, and he's just like, what about Megan? And Don just kind of throws up his hands, and he's like, marriage is a racket, and Don does not argue. He's just like, yep. So I think he'll be in New York for the foreseeable. I think he's going to work on his relationship with his kids.
Yeah, exactly. So all right, well, we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if we see her, but also, like you said, I would not be surprised at all if we never
Yeah.
see
I don't think
Peggy
she'll be a
ever.
big part of next season. I mean,
No.
we might see her once or something, picking up her fondue pot or something. No.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what I think obviously the next bad thing that Don faces is the fact that he gets this phone call from Roger while they're in Indiana getting ready for the big pitch, and he of course breaks the news to him about what happened to Bert. What I thought was nice about right away from Don is the fact that he conceives to Peggy and tells her after he learns this news, really realizing, okay, without Bert's vote, I'm in trouble now. I'm for sure probably out the door. And how he shows his loyalty and his loyalty and friendship to Peggy, and how important it is not only for her to do it, but also for the company's sake as well. But mainly, I'm sure he's thinking about her more than anything, but obviously he's thinking about the company too. And to say, hey, listen, you've got to do this. It
No.
can't be me. And I thought, wow, this is definitely a different Don Draper, right?
Absolutely. No, absolutely. That he knows I'm not going to be here. I'm not going to be available to push you into the spotlight if they kick me out. So I'm going to make sure it happens before I go, and make sure that you have your own campaign that is yours, that nobody can, weasel you out of. I'm going to make that happen. And she completely pulls it off.
Yeah. Right, and we'll talk when we get to Peggy. I'll definitely want to talk a little bit about what happens with this pitch and how good it is. But
I thought it was strange though that he didn't tell her that Bert was dead.
Yeah, you know what? It was funny because when we were watching the scene. That's one of the things I think my wife Rachel first said to me. She turned around, she goes, "And when's he going to mention? By the way, Bert's dead." And I'm like,
maybe they just did that off camera or something. We're just supposed to assume that he told her that during the night while they were prepping.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's pretty much what's going on there. Is that yes, of course, at some point he mentions, I'm sure, that Bert, but to the significance of the scene, it wasn't important enough. The important part was Don letting Peggy know that, one, not only do you need to do this, but two, you can do it, and give her that confidence that she needed to tell her, you're going to do this and you're going to do fantastic. And of course, as we know, she did, and he was exactly right.
I love the part though where her head is in her hands and she's like, "And we don't have any liquor," because they're in in Indiana and it's Sunday and they can't get any alcohol.
Well, I think with so much transitioning between showing that Peggy is pretty much becoming the new Don Draper, and that would have been something I'm sure Don Draper, if we ever heard that side of Don Draper, he would have been thinking, "Oh man, I need some liquor if I'm gonna be doing this,"
Yeah.
That would be something Don Draper would say, and it was beautiful. I love that line. That was great. I want to talk to you a little bit later on when the pitch goes well and they get back and he learns about this deal that Rogers come up with. Now, he has his concerns about it, but one of the things I think is the most important thing that we get out of all this, the conversations he has with Roger, and of course the conversations that come up when he basically pitches to Ted why he should stay. And I think that's when we learn that where Don is in his mindset is that he basically tells Ted, "Listen, man, I lost all of this 1 year ago, or this time last year, or whatever. I lost this last year. I lost it all, and I would have done anything to get back." And he explains to him like how he's done all these things he hasn't even done since early days that he got into the business, and how he just realized in his life, I gotta have this. I need this, and no, I don't want to maybe necessarily deal with all the other headaches about it, but I just want to be able to work. He wants to do the work, and I thought that was really interesting to kind of tell where, at least on the portion of Don Draper's side of how he feels about his job. That's what they're telling us, is Don is in a good place here. He doesn't necessarily have to be in charge necessarily anymore. He's just happy to be part of the team and doing the work.
Well, I feel like he was saying, because when Roger meets him at his apartment door when he comes back from Indiana, and he's like, I don't want to do, I just want to do, my little piece. I don't want to do any of the business part, blah, blah, blah. And Roger's basically like, "Look, I'm doing this to save you and everybody else, and you're going to have to, be a team player here, And otherwise everybody else is sending out resumes, or he says something to the effect of, this
Right.
isn't just about you anymore. And so and they kind of end on that, and Don is just left to ponder that. And then he goes to Ted, and Ted is basically saying the same thing, that he just wants to do, or Ted's saying even he wants to do nothing. And Don offers him to do what Don wants to do, which is, just do your creative part of it, and we'll make sure you don't have to deal with anything else, and we'll really take care of you. Which is basically saying, I'm not going to get what I want. I'm going to make sure Ted gets what he wants, because he's really in the depths of, where I was last year. So I'm going to take care of him. Which is like 2 times in one episode, Don Draper is going to like come to the rescue of people. And I mean, and Megan too. I mean, he's like all over the place with his, Superman cape. So he's developing a lot, and I don't know if he's going to come across with all of these promises, but he is actually taking care of all these people, and I mean, good for him. That's a good sacrifice for him.
Right. I'm glad you were talking through this, because you're right. That really, so much of this episode was about the change that he's had about his loyalty, and this is his way of being loyal and helpful to these people that he cares so much about. They need him. He wants him to stay on board and do his role, and that's what he's going to do. But I did think it was very fascinating, though, to hear him discuss the way he did to Ted, and it kind of opened up our eyes on why. One of the big questions we had, remember, why would he take this deal? Why would he agree to these restrictions and all this stuff? And this is why he basically saying, I was so lost, I had to get back, and I had to do this.
Yeah,
that was great.
No, it was really good, and I was kind of stunned that he was willing to give over, that he was really gonna do some things that he doesn't want to do, and work with the McCann or whoever he has to do to take care of all these people that are part of this company. That he's always about, this is what I need, and finally he's like, okay, there are other people here, and I should maybe every once in a while check in and see what they need. So, baby steps, but he's doing it.
Right. Well, I had one other thing I want to bring up, but I want to save this in just for a little bit, because I want to discuss this a little bit later on in the episode, and that has to do with the meaning of Bert's, one of the possible side meanings of Bert's song that he was singing to Don. But let's talk about the departure of poor Bert Cooper. Did anyone see? I don't think any of us predicted that poor Bert Cooper would be. Did any of us talk about that in our prediction podcast? I don't remember.
I don't think so. I'm sure it should have occurred to us that he could die, but I really didn't think about that happening. And but I loved that final scene between Bert and Roger after the vote to keep Dawn, and Bert talking about who they all are as people, and that he's the leader and he has to protect his team, and that's why he voted for Dawn, and Roger isn't a leader. He's experienced and talented, but he's not a leader. And that Cutler, he basically says, is a leader because he has vision. And I feel like that's where Roger is able to. He takes everything that they said to each other in that last conversation, and he internalizes it, and he's like, all right, I need a vision. I need to figure out what I'm going to do. I have to have a plan. And he formulates this plan with McCann. He they told us last week that steam room scene was something about Buick, and
right.
They kind of set that up for us. So he figured out that he could go there and he could sell them and he could save Dawn and the agency, and not. I love that line about Cutler's not going to be happy until it's just Harry and the computer. So I thought that was beautiful.
That was
so
great.
I mean, he has attachment there too, and responsibility, and I thought that was all really meaningful, and that Bert had finally raised his boys right, and they were able to go on and be responsible adults at 65 or however old Roger's supposed to be.
Right, the mystery of Roger. That's correct. I agree so much. This. With Bert, when Bert's going to go, just the way he went by being able to pass on this this discussion, like I said, they had with Roger to inspire him to be a better leader and a better teammate to the team was just fantastic. I love that, and that was one of the questions I had for you was that you definitely have to feel the fact that Roger's decision to go to Jim Hobart was because of what those final words that Bert told him about being a leader, and that it wasn't, and like he said when he has his conversation with Don on the phone when he's telling him about what happened with Bert, he said he was so hard on me, but he was so right, and you could see it was painful for him. You could tell in his face that it was painful for him to admit that, but like you said, he was able to use that as motivation to get this deal done and put himself in charge to make sure he's taking care of the team. And Roger turns out to be a rock star because Bert was a rock star, and letting Roger know, hey man, I'm a leader, and you're not, but you can't, you can be one, obviously, if you wanted to be. And it was so touching.
It was great.
I have to admit though, now when Roger first gets the phone call, when they're all sitting there, of course, him and his family are sitting there watching the moon landing, and he gets this phone call, and you knew it was bad news right away. But I have to admit, the first second my mind wasn't going, oh, Bert just died.
No, I thought it was the daughter. I thought it was the daughter. I was like, oh, she's OD'd or something, or I don't know how you die on a commune, but something. I was like, oh, she's gonna be dead because they were all together.
Yes.
And I was sure of that.
I am so glad you said that, because both me and my wife looked at each other and go, oh no, his daughter. And that was our exact thoughts was, something terrible happened to his daughter, or minor, she got arrested, bad news, she overdosed or something, right? Yeah, so I'm glad we had the same thought.
We did. Well, and AMC had teased out earlier in the day that Roger would be getting some bad news. So I'd kind of been mulling that over, and I sort of assumed that it would be the daughter had taken off or something otherwise not good. But hey, did we notice that Roger's hanging out with Mona? I think yes. I said that was going to happen. They're going to get back together. It's happening.
I was going to ask you that because we see many scenes of where everybody was at watching this big event, which of course some of the experts say that over 500 million people around the world watch this. So as you can imagine, one of probably the largest live event to ever be televised. Next to, of course, the live event of Mad Men Podcast live on YouTube, of course. But yes, I saw that he was with Mona and his son-in-law, and of course the kid, which I always forget the poor kid's name, but he had his little astronaut hat on. From what I understand, that was really popular. The kids were with those all the time, right? The helmet. That was so great to see him there with the whole family, and I know that's now we're wondering, does this mean, believe you predicted this, that maybe Roger will just wind up going back to Mona? I
think so, and I actually started rewatching the show from the beginning yesterday because I was like in a preemptive effort not to be too sad when last night finished, and I think it was the first or second or maybe even the third episode. Oh no, it's the episode where Don gets him all drunk and gives him oysters and then makes him go up the stairs and throw up. I think it's the fourth episode. While they're drinking and they're pretty wasted, Roger's talking about Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz getting married twice, and he's like, "Who marries the same woman twice?" And I was like, "No way did they foreshadow that all the way back to the first season." But maybe.
Well, I think that would be great to see Roger and Mona just him go back to the person that he fell in love with the first time around. That would be great.
I hope so.
So let's talk about this deal that Roger works out.
Yes.
They basically he goes to Jim. They have this conversation. As we know, Jim kind of was. That's what he was getting at in the sauna room, was that maybe we could make some kind of deal here, work something out, because obviously McCann Erickson would not be happy about losing Buick to Sterling Cooper and Partners. That would be devastating for them. So he was definitely trying to work this out. I just was so impressed with Roger through this entire process, from him working out this deal with Jim, convincing him into this. And Jim stuck his ground. He said, we got to have Ted. We got to have Ted. And you could tell Roger's like, "No, I really want to get rid of all these guys." You know, he was really hoping to cut them completely out. But he was able to do that, and then the way when he gets everybody together in the office, and he just works them over so well. I mean, he goes after Joan. He knows Joan cares about the money, and Pete only cares about the money, and so he quickly shows them what their share would be, which by the way would be a lot of money,
a lot of money.
And,
a lot of money. And I liked that that Roger took Jim to that place that he used to go with Joan. It's like some out-of-the-way coffee shop that's like in some like kind of not great neighborhood or something. I thought that was interesting. I think that's the place where Kevin was conceived, actually, on the way out of there.
Right outside there in the alleyway or whatever.
Exactly. So I thought that was interesting. It was like, oh, this is like his place where he goes when he wants to keep things out of the public eye.
Yeah. I think so. I'm not sure, obviously, where that is at, but it's definitely a little bit out of the way or something, and that's right. It's where he goes. That's his spot.
That is. That's his secret place.
So this deal, and everybody has to sign a 5-year contract. He does get a little help from Don to convincing Ted, but I notice how as soon as Ted says, "Do I get to move back to New York?" He's like, "Ted's in. Let's take a vote."
I know. Ted's like, "Wait." He's like, "No, you're in." Like,
he didn't waste any time in getting that deal done, and I thought that was brilliant.
As soon as you're like negotiating, it's you're in.
Yeah, it was just fantastic.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what this could mean for everyone involved. I was thinking right off the top of my head, Harry's getting screwed here.
Harry is getting screwed like nobody's business. He's not gonna get the partnership because they won't need him anymore, and so he'll just stay in the same position.
Yeah, exactly. But from what we gather from this episode, just the little bitty nuggets we've gotten, we had like early on during the meeting about the Burger Chef pitch, we find out, he's talking about how him and Jennifer is holding out on divorce, which so apparently they are getting divorced.
Yeah.
I don't know how long that relationship. Why didn't she dump Harry a long time ago? I have no idea.
I don't know
because
either.
Harry's been, Harry's just as bad as the rest of them. I mean, he's always messing around. He's not a very good husband.
He started off at the beginning too, though, being very sweet and and then he's just kind of crumbled as the years have gone by.
Right. Exactly, and I've talked about this before in the past that poor Harry his character has kind of turned into be just get worse and worse every time you turn around. So, but what we gather is because if you remember going back to the last episode strategy, that was around mid to late June. Now we're into mid to late July, so a whole month's gone by. I don't know how long this contract has been sitting in front of him, but he didn't sign it. And, of course, at the last minute, with Roger, which, by the way, that line, you missed out. Get out of here. See, when he came in, he's like, I'll take the deal. He's like, too late.
Nope. See you later.
So this is
Cutler's like, don't worry about it, and because he thinks he's going to talk them all out of it, but it's like, no, you should majorly worry about it because he probably would have had the same 5% that Joan has, and that would have been $1 million. So it's the old you snooze, you lose for Harry.
Yep.
And for Jennifer, who is waiting for that partner money to come through, which will not be coming. So
I have a feeling that divorce is heading. It's into the fast lane now.
Yes, I'm sure by the next time we see them, they will be Splitsville.
Yeah, I believe we will. That's correct. One of the things that's interesting, because everybody else I think involved, Peggy, Ken, everybody else we care about, I think they're going to go on doing probably exactly what they're doing since apparently the company's going to run as it is. It just McKay and Erickson has 51% of stakes in this.
And Don said something like, oh, you think that's going to happen? And Roger said, well, they didn't do anything to, I think it was Markle, or he named another firm that's also being run independently with McKay and Erickson. So it sounds like it's been done before. So it sounds like they will be operating pretty much business as usual, but somebody else will own the major part of the company.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I mean that happens a lot even today in corporations. How many of these major corporations own cities of so many other different companies, and then it's not until you dig around, you realize, oh, that's actually owned by Disney too.
Right. It's all Disney.
It's all Disney, yeah, exactly. So that, I mean, that makes a lot of sense.
So I'm wondering though, is McCann Erickson going to buy everybody else's shares? Or will everybody's shares just dwindle? They'll all have some percentage of 49%.
Yeah, this is the part that, of course, is really vague for all of us. And I've been busy most of the day, so I haven't had a chance to see or if anything has been come out with Matthew has opened up a little bit more about some of these details, which maybe as time goes on, we got a year before the next episode, so maybe some things will kind of leak out as far as maybe more details of how exactly this works. We had a lot of questions about people wanting to know just how their partnership broke down, and I know I had to ask you to see what you could find out on the wiki page. But real quick, before we talk about that, real quick, what about Lou? Is Lou out?
Well, Lou still has a 2-year contract, which he probably still has about a year left on, I would guess.
Yeah,
so they may just buy him out, or they may just let him sit in his office and drink Cokes like they did with Dawn. Or I'm not sure. I'm not sure what they'll do with him. But I mean, he's no longer a threat to Dawn. I mean, he has not been able to succeed. So I'm sure either they'll buy him out of his contract, or he'll just run it out. They'll just run the clock out on him.
My only concern, Elise, we spent a lot of time hating this guy for 7 episodes, right?
I know.
Hating this guy.
We're invested.
And yes, I loved Jim's basically telling him that you're nothing but a hired hand. I did enjoy that, but that is not enough closure for me. I really want somebody else that this guy really hurt, Peggy or Don or somebody, to have one little crack at him about something. I'm hoping you're right. I hope he stays on and he's got to answer to Peggy and Don now for the rest of the series, and he's going to hate every second of it when they tell him everything he's got to do. Make him write copy.
I think the opening scene of the next season will be just some janitor guy with a dolly and Lou's tiki bar rolling it out. And that'll be all we'll get.
That would be perfect.
Yes.
As long as he doesn't get caught drinking rum in the office, that'd be terrible.
Oh man.
Okay, so like I said, I did get an email about this. A lot of confusion about who owns what in Sterling Cooper Partners. This is from Wiki, so I don't know how take it as it is.
This said it was based on most of this was based on the Close the Door and Sit Down episode where they opened Sterling Cooper Draper Price and how things were broken down from there. And then it's been added to since then, but the initial numbers. So what it was that the senior partners, Bert and Roger, both have 20%. Okay. Ted Shaw also has 20%. Don Draper has 12. Jim Cutler has 13. Pete has 10. And then, of course, Joan got her 5. We don't need to talk about how. So,
so there you go. That's the breakdown.
And also I'm wondering, so Bert's gone, so what happens to his 20%? That should be inherited by his sister? Don asked the question if his sister was still alive, and it wasn't answered. Right. Roger continued to talk about something else. So I don't know who would inherit Bert's 20%. I don't think there are any... Oh, maybe he has a niece from his sister. I think they did talk about that, or she came in several seasons ago.
Yeah, I think so, if I remember.
Or maybe he left it to Roger, and Roger would have 40%. Maybe Roger knows that. And so it'll be Roger will have 49%, and McCann Erickson will have 51%. I don't know.
That could be interesting. You'd hope that maybe that would have been brought up in the episode, but it's very possible that it could not have been, or was something we find out later on. But that was very, very interesting. So there's the breakdown. I guess the only part I don't understand, and maybe just because it has to do with how much ownership, Ted Shaw over Cutler and Gleason had. I don't know how, their shares broke up in their agency. But I guess the only one that I'm not quite sure about was why does Ted have 20%?
And Jim has less. I'm not sure. Maybe just financial investment. Maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
Or maybe Ted bought out, I forget the name of the other guy at CGC who died. Gleason.
Yes. He bought Gleason's out?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, that would make sense, that he would have more.
So he got a little bit more.
Maybe originally he would have had like 10% then, and then he bought out Gleason's 10%. they worked very close. Remember, we saw when he was dying, that was the person he was talking to in the hospital. That was the person you could tell he had, had a real good relationship. I don't know who's friends with Jim Cutler, right? This guy. I
Jim
don't know if
Cutler's
he's got a lot of
weird though.
friends.
Like this episode, I really noticed like how he just stays monotone. He's very chill. I mean, he'll get angry occasionally, but like people will be screaming at him, and he's just like, "Hey, I told you." da, da, da. He doesn't. And his face stays still, and I mean, I feel like it's a choice. I don't think like, he's not acting or something. I feel like he's the one that brought in that doctor, so maybe he's just on sedatives all the time. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe that's right. He's drugged up all the time. You never
He's
know
in the
what
right place
reality's
for
going
it.
on. All right, well, that's all I want to talk about the deal. Let's talk a little bit about Peggy. Obviously, one of the things we find out right away is the fact that she... so for some reason, something happened to my video here. Oh, there it goes. Peggy, let's talk about her. She apparently is having some work done on her building, and you brought up a good point about with her having this stuff done with the drop-down tiles. I like your thought about this.
She's putting in, I mean, she's got these beautiful high ceilings, and maybe that was out at the time, I don't know, but she's putting in the grids and the dropped acoustic ceiling with the white foamy stuff in her apartment, which is what they have at work, and I think it makes her feel more comfortable or something, I don't know. But I thought that was really interesting. But of course, the guy who's putting it in was quite hunky and seemed interested in her, so maybe that'll make her feel better too.
Well, the other thing on her storyline that I thought was really touching is what happens when she finds out that the upstairs neighbor kid, of course, we've seen a little bit of him in and out coming in, this little Julio that's been coming in and spending a lot of time with Peggy, and I'm assuming it's just because Mom for sure, I don't know if he's talking about Dad, I can't remember, but basically parents are very busy and stuff, and he's just built up a friendship with Peggy, and for Peggy, we talked about
Peggy
this, she's very lonely.
Peggy has a TV. I don't think he has TV at his house.
That's a good point. I was going to bring that up, is the fact that she does seem to have a TV, and probably they do not.
TV. He likes to watch. So, but it was sad that they're moving, and I think Peggy does. I mean, one, she's lonely, and so it's just nice to have another body around. But he is also, she said during the Burger Chef thing, that he's 10 years old, and that's about the age, give or take a year, maybe, that her child with Pete would be. So, maybe that subconsciously or consciously is, kind of making her feel good too, or she's exploring that. I don't know, but she seemed genuinely sad that he was leaving.
Yeah, I mean, with all the discussion we had, even back with the strategy, about motherhood and stuff, and I'm sure there's a lot of regrets. She will probably always have those regrets about giving up, her child. And, that's, Julio kind of represented a lot of that for her, and I thought it was just a really very touching scene for her, and when she embraced him and stuff, I was like, oh, that is so sweet.
I know.
And then of course the poor kid, she's like, well, I'll come and visit you, and he's like, no, you won't, which we all know is probably true.
I know.
She probably won't, but
she'll probably go visit him once or twice, but she says, I'll visit you all the time, and it's like,
yeah,
she's not going to see him every day. It's like maybe, a couple times she'll go see him. But
that probably wasn't much. So let's go back to this amazing pitch by Burger Chef. One of the things, first of all, is we lead up to the pitch. The fact that she was obviously very nervous about the whole thing, you could tell that, and I loved the way they moved in for the shot, and you hear like it's muffled sound,
Yeah.
And then it kind of breaks when she coughs, if I remember right. But I love how they gave us that feel like, just her heart almost dropping, like this is it, we've got to make this happen, and all the pressure is on her shoulders to do that. Did you like how they set that shot up?
I did. It seemed like it was like silent, and she was just in her head, and you can kind of see them laughing, and Pete, you see kind of blurry almost, like Pete stands up, and because of the earlier walkthrough, like, okay, now Pete's saying, how lovely it is in Indiana, and then he's telling his joke, and everybody laughs, and then the camera kind of pans a little bit over to Harry, and Harry says whatever about his ad buys, and then her and Dawn kind of like lock eyes, and he's like, all right, curtains up, here we go, and then like the sound clicks in right there, and Dawn introduces her in that wonderful way, saying, she's been to all of them and nobody knows it better than she does, and just really just builds her up amazingly, and I mean, really could not have introduced her better to the clients. I thought that was great.
Oh, it was fantastic. And also, real quick on a side note, I don't know if you noticed this or not, but during the scene with Julio, she was asking him about what to wear, and she had one of the dresses. I know we've seen that outfit before, and then she also had a suit, and I think she even mentioned something. I don't know if it was a reference to it's a gray suit, and I don't know if she was. It almost kind of like she was trying to show, should I go in as a woman, or as a woman kind of
dressed as
a man, right? Not not necessarily. I know she's not being a man.
Yeah,
you know what I'm
but
trying to
in
say.
a gray suit, basically.
Right. They have basically, should I look like Don Draper or should I look like myself?
Yeah.
And then, of course, when we see her in the room for the pitch, she has a completely different outfit on, which I thought would look great for her. I mean, with the green and the black and the white or whatever it was, I thought that looked good. But I don't know if you had picked up on the fact that she went with a entirely different outfit.
Thing. I did. Well, and I thought it was funny during that scene with Julio too. She's like, and I might be sweating, and not because it's July. So she's like, I think she went against the suit because it was, it's a shirt and a jacket and it's heavy and she'd be hot. And
That's true.
She might be very, very nervous and sweating and not want to, have that read so much. So I thought she did a good job going with dress. It was a very Peggy dress, It's
it
kind
did.
of, very similar to the things we've seen her in, but I thought she looked good and confident and ready to kill him.
Yes. Okay, so let's talk about this pitch. Is this the best pitch we've seen from anyone outside of Don Draper? And a lot of people are comparing this to Don's carousel pitch. Do you thought it was that good? Because I have to admit, I thought it was.
It was really good. I mean, it was really, hitting them where they live with, they're starving for attachment and everybody's so lonely and, we're starving and not just for dinner. And I mean, it was really good and just really took like the time period they were in and with the moon landing and tying that in, everybody having this like, sort of camaraderie feel about that. And it was amazing. It was amazingly well done.
Yeah. I think it was fantastic. We'll probably always look, when we look at this season as a whole over the years, we'll probably point to that pitch to go, that's when Peggy Olson, that's when she really made it. That's when she set herself, I mean, she's done great work. We've seen her do great work. We've seen her do good pitches before. I thought the Heinz pitch she had was great.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The Heinz beans was really good with the kids around the campfire. That was a good one.
Right. I thought what she did with the Koss headphones was really great. That turned out to be great work. We've seen her do great work. I just think this pitch really, maybe also too for her, for herself, to like show her, I can do this. I can be Don Draper. You know what I'm saying?
Or she doesn't have to be Don Draper. She can be her and be as good.
And you're right. I shouldn't make it sound like that. She is herself.
She is.
She's as good as Don Draper. That's what I should have said. So I thought it was great. It was just a nice extra little topping to this great episode to see her hit that pitch so well. And thanks to her hard work, they were able to get the Burger Chef account. So this obviously is more good news for the transition of Erickson and McCann and Erickson for getting the transition of this company, because now they've got Burger Chef back.
Oh, that's right, because they had lost Burger Chef. So yes, that's right.
It's not McDonald's, but
Well, it's fast food.
Right. Well, I wonder if they'll have a breach. See, I don't know if they meant they actually had McDonald's, because this is what I would think could be a conflict of interest there, right? If they did.
Right, but they're independent. I think that's part of the thing of being independent from McCann Erickson is they can have
the competing
conflicts and but be under the same umbrella corporation.
Gotcha. No, you're right. That's right. We just talked about that. I'm already contradicting what I said. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on in the Francis house. Betty has an old friend, Caroline, come from what I could gather, she's known her at least through high school.
I thought maybe they were college roommates. I don't know. I felt like it was very vague who they were. They just kind of showed up, and it was like, come down here, these people are here. And I was like, is that her brother-in-law? or her brother and his wife. I wasn't sure who that was. And then I kind of just put it together because she was like, oh, she looks just like you did freshman year, and that kind of stuff. So
Right. The reason why I thought Elise goes back to high school because she says, wow, look at when she sees Sally, she says, it looked just like your mother did in high school. So that's the only reason why I thought maybe they go back even as far as high school, but that doesn't necessarily mean that maybe she knew of her but didn't know her in high school.
Oh, I thought she said freshman year.
Did she? Well, maybe we have to go back and check.
I don't know. Maybe I heard it wrong. I don't know.
Well, that's what I thought I heard. But obviously she's known her for a long time. I don't really know if there's any main significance on who this person is. Every once in a while we get introduced to certain people come in that I don't really know how much significance they really have. I mean, other than helping setting up other stories, other plot lines. One of them, of course, being that Sally she's really growing up, that young lady, and she was really, really trying to impress these young men that have come into their home. One of the things I want to ask you is I asked my wife, and she wasn't quite 100% sure, but so Sally, who was she really always interested in? Was she interested in Sam? I think it was Sam, the oldest kid, or was it Sean? Thank you. I knew it would start with S. Or Neil, who she winds up kissing. What do you think? Who is she? Because obviously the signs were. I mean, I may not be a woman, and I may do terrible when it comes to picking up on signs. As my wife will tell you, she had to pick me up when I was younger because I couldn't pick up girls because I can't read signs at all. I'm terrible with women. So, but tell me, what do you think? Did it just turn out to be Neil was there, and she liked him too, or what do you think? Who do you think Sally was really trying to impress there?
No, I think she liked Neil. I think they were trying to I thought she was going after Sean too, the way they were depicting it, and I think they were showing it through the mother's eyes, and I don't think Sally was actually, like, when I rewatched it after seeing how the whole thing played out, I was like, oh, you know what? Sally actually never makes eyes at him. She's really always looking at Neil, and just Sean happens to be in there, and I think it's because Sally really doesn't have that outer appearance thing. I mean, she actually is probably going as far against that as she can possibly manage because of her mother being so fixated on that, like the whole thing with the broken nose and all of that. So I think, she's more apt to go for the geek. So
yeah, I go back, right, when I went back and watched it, I felt like that she really did have a thing for Neil, but when you first watch in the first run, I think you're kind of led to think that it's the handsome older boy with his shirt off and all this stuff, right?
Right.
But I think the only thing that threw me off a little bit was when we had, which is, by the way, the other thing I did enjoy from this whole scene with the Francis house was when she has a conversation with her father. We finally get to see Don and Sally have a conversation. I mean, we've been waiting for a while now since the last time we saw them. It's been a while, so it was kind of nice to see that they, had a nice. I thought it was a nice conversation. But she, of course, takes the side of Sean with this whole, this thing costs lots of money, and stuff. Which apparently, there was people who weren't on board with the moon landing, and that was one of their arguments, was that we were wasting our money. So I was kind of that's the part that threw me off, was when she took his side.
Yeah, no, I did too, and I think that was just, she was like, oh, here's a barb to stick in the parent's side, which, any good teenager's going to use if it's handy. So I think that was all that was, and then her father was like, really, are you that cynical? Do you want your brothers to talk like that? And she was like, no, all right, no, I'll go get him,
I thought that was sweet.
She tramps back in there, and it was sweet, but it was like, she's trying all these little behaviors, and
as a typical teenager would do.
Of course.
So I had this feeling, though, that when she kisses Neil, I think that was the first time Mr. Neil has been kissed.
I think so, too. What do I do now? Deer in the headlights. Fortunately, I think Sally's had at least one or two kissing boys experiences. There's that one from the first season in the bathtub where she gets in trouble for kissing someone, and I feel like, didn't her and Glenn kiss once?
Yeah, yeah, I believe she kissed Glenn if I remember right. Yes, I can't remember. I'm trying to remember what episode.
I know. I feel like they did. Maybe it's just on the cheek or something.
If
I
I
can't
remember right, it was
remember.
very awkward, and I think that's they kind of realized that they're close
Friends.
friends. They're friends more than anything, right?
I know. I
Which
can't believe
I
we didn't
have.
get to see Glenn this whole time. There
Thank
was no
you.
Glenn. I thought we would see him last
I
night.
would have bet money that we would seeing Glenn, but maybe he's saving Glenn for the second half. We've got to
Maybe.
have some kind of closure with Glenn, right?
I know he had all
Something.
that facial hair. We were sure.
I know. I thought for sure. That's okay. Don't worry. I don't think we're going to jump the shark here and jump, 7 years from now. I think we're still
Okay.
going to be staying. I still think we're going to be staying in the same time frame. So there's plenty of time to see bushy sideburns and the very 70s look of Glenn Bishop. I'm pretty
That's
sure we
true.
will. We'll get some
Okay.
kind of closure. I hope so. The only other thing I wanted to say about the Francis home that I thought was interesting was Betty's conversation with Caroline about Don. What did you think about that? Where she said, "I kind of think of him as just a bad old boyfriend."
I don't
You believe
know.
that?
I don't know if I believe that. I don't know if that's
Neither
just,
do I.
her throwing up a front to this woman who's just like, oh, look how much better I've done now. She's playing herself off as the happy political wife as though that actually exists. And and I don't know. I feel like she says something about he was like an anthropology project of a teenager or something. So I mean, I think she might be fronting just because she's obviously not happy with Henry. So she doesn't want to say that. She doesn't want to be like, no, I miss him terribly. So I don't necessarily believe it, but she might believe it right now. She might be
Yeah.
telling herself that this week.
Okay. Well, I feel kind of the same way. I really, really do not believe that at all. That she really feels that way. So that was just my opinion. It'll be interesting to hear what some other fans think about that. But I just really wasn't buying that myself. So was there anything else in the Francis house that you want to mention that
Did you
happened?
recognize her friend was the girl who used to be on Doogie Howser?
No, I missed that one. No kidding.
I didn't look it up, but I was looking at her. I was like, oh, that's the girl who was on Doogie Howser.
Oh,
Dating
I've
myself.
done a terrible job this season of mentioning some of these actors that are playing some of these side characters, but I did not pick up on that one. So another '80s teen star, or
Yes.
or '90s. Was that early '90s? Doogie Howser from
Maybe.
late
I was a
'80s,
little
early
old
'90s,
for it.
right?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So no, I did not. I did not pick up on that one. That's pretty good. So let's talk about a lot of people discussing this. We even got somebody on Twitter was discussing a little bit about this. This closing scene with Bert, with Don's vision of Bert singing with his shoes off, of course. By the way, I don't know if you ever realized that he had his no shoes on.
I did.
So what is your feeling about this? Were you okay with them doing this? Did you like it? What was your feelings about it?
I said in my blog wrap up that I thought it was kind of funny, that Bert Cooper is singing a song about, the best things in life are free, and his character is like so wrapped up in his very expensive art collection. They show him at home in this episode with a gigantic, what I believe is a Pollock painting behind him, and so I mean, the best things in his life weren't free, and Don is suddenly about to, have another windfall of cash on him. So, I mean, I kind of was like, oh, this is an interesting moment to drop this on them when they're, you know, flush. But maybe it was just him going, okay, now, I'm getting more money again, and, Bert had all the money in the world to get all these things, and, I mean, Bert seemed happy. I don't know. He died with his housekeeper, so, sitting on the couch. So I don't know, but I felt like maybe it was just, okay, you've got all the money, you've got all the stuff, you've had the beautiful wives. None of it's working out. You're basically on your own again with your pile of cash. So you need to start working on all the free things in life. And I'd read that Weiner had said that he had really wanted to have Robert do a song and dance number because that is his, that's where he comes from Broadway. And so he'd really wanted to do that and he'd just never been able to find a place to do it, and he felt like this was a good opportunity. So somewhat I think it was like shoved in there because they wanted to do it, and some of it I think it was like, it was just kind of an interesting, weird, little quirky thing to have happen. What about you?
Yeah, no, I mean that's pretty much exactly what I was thinking. Is that I felt that for the song, that's what it was trying to tell to Don Draper is, and I really feel like that the second half of this season, you go back to that interview I talked to you about before that Matthew had about material things and immaterial things, and how he really felt like the second half was going to be about things that is most important in your life, things that um, like relationships and religion and things like that. And I wonder if that's kind of why, as far as the song that they chose that he was singing, if that's what the meaning was for them. And then, yes, I mean, for those of you who don't know about Robert's past, I mean, he was a big theater guy. In fact, he won a Tony Award and he did musicals, and it just was very fitting the fact that he was able to do this musical at the end. But I could see how a lot of fans may not like that. It might be something that they prefer not to do, but I thought it was a nice fitting for Robert Morris to be able to do something fun like that, but also be able to get us in the mindset of where Don maybe is going next as far as where his story is going to lead to. So
Yeah.
we're pretty much on the same page. When I read your blog, I was like, oh, that's kind of what I was thinking. So.
Well, and Brian here in the Q&A on the podcast is saying like he thought it was a beautiful send off and of a beloved character, and it was like a nice way to do that, and maybe a little bit weird but lovely, he says. So he's with us too.
Right, very good, Brian. So Brian agrees with us, and that's all we care about, right?
Yeah, it's just us and Brian, man. As long as Brian says it's good, we're happy.
Thank you, Brian. No, and Brian's right. It was nice, but there was some people I could tell online wasn't digging it too much.
I know.
But, oh well.
I like a little musical in my life, so
and I'm this is saying a lot for me because I really don't like musicals. So, but I thought it was okay. It didn't really bother me too much. So, like I said, I can understand why some people may like it, but whenever you decide to do something creative like this, you're always going to have skeptics. So you're going to have people that go, "Oh, no." But this is not completely out of characteristics for Mad Men to do something a little bit out of the ordinary. We've seen it with other episodes in the past, and it's not like it's completely out of context for the show.
Yeah, Ken was tap dancing last season.
Yeah, the LSD episode is a great example.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily like the LSD episode. It was probably my least favorite of the thing, but I appreciate them trying to do something a little different.
Yeah.
Creatively, and I'm okay with that because this is a very talented group of people. So I don't want to gloss over. We have to real quickly. I want to ask you, what do you think about Ted? He is in a low spot here. He practically was wanting to kill himself and the Sunkist people in the airplane. But I think he's in such a low spot. He realized trying to make his marriage last, going to California and starting over with his wife there. From what I can gather, is not working. And he's very excited about the idea of coming back to New York. Is this going to be enough to fix poor Ted?
I think his marriage is probably toast. I think he's going to realize that he needs to pull out of that, since just getting out of the eyesight of Peggy didn't end his problem. So I think his marriage is probably toast, and we'll see if he can't pull it back together once back in New York, and maybe Don will try to mentor him a little bit, or maybe Freddie Redson will take him to some meetings. I don't know. I think but the part in the plane with Sunkist, I think he was in control. Like he turned off the engine, but he was just coasting. He was doing like a pilot thing. He was he was in control of that situation. He wouldn't have actually hurt them, but he's also like in such a depressive state that he doesn't get that, like, when you say like, oh, the pilot should be happy if they don't make it because all their problems will be over, that that doesn't read very good with other people. Like, oh, that's not really how most people would think of that situation.
You don't think about this too, is he's not necessarily really suicidal. If you guys remember in the episode, he even said, well, I wasn't really, I don't really want to die. He even says that in the episode. So I'm not concerned that he is that far off, but I do think he is severely depressed, and because I'm sure he wanted this to work for him, but then he gets out there and he realizes maybe all he's been doing is thinking about Peggy, and that's not good.
Yeah. Well, what do you think will happen once he's back in the city? Do you think he'll try to get Peggy back? Do you think she'll go for that?
I'm still sort of convinced that if he does it the right way, he could get her back. What about you?
I don't know.
I mean, she has moved on.
She has moved on, and Peggy doesn't usually go back, to people. I don't feel like she's done that in the past, so I don't know. I think he might try, and she might rebuff him.
Okay. Yeah, it's very possible. We'll see. I do think there'll be some kind of closure there, or something's going to happen with that, whether they have a discussion or something after he moves back. I mean, I think we're going to see something in those last 7 episodes. So we'll see.
We'll see.
Hopefully, I'm hoping for good things for Ted because I really like Ted.
I know. I like Ted too. He tries so hard to be good.
Yeah, he really does. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the fun historical references and things. Do we need to really talk much about the Apollo 11 landing? I mean, this is something I think just about everybody really knows about, right?
Yeah. The only line that we haven't talked about that I thought was really funny was when Roger was meeting with Hobart, and he says, "Neil Armstrong, what are you gonna do with the rest of your life? Screw every woman in Florida." That was so funny. It was a great Roger line.
Yeah, it was a great Roger line.
I was laughing. I just had to get it out.
Well, by the way, for those of you who are curious, $25 billion today would be $150 billion. So that was a lot of money to do that.
Yeah.
So, but it was obviously it was an amazing thing, that amazing feat that happens for mankind. It really was a big thing. One of the things, by the way, I found out was that they kind of allude to the fact that the Burger Chef meeting, the pitch, happened the day after, right? If I remember right.
Yeah, because she says after last night or something.
Well, what a lot of people may not know is that that actually was a national day off. Everybody had off that day. National Day of Participation of the Lunar Exploration. Even the NASDAQ, the New York Stock Exchange, or NASDAQ was closed. I mean, everything was closed from that day. So now apparently, I guess the Burger Chef people are working.
Yeah. Well, they had a meeting anyway.
Yeah, I guess so. Those poor people had to work that day. But yeah, apparently a lot of people were off that day. It was a big holiday, big event. So I can't say because I was not there, but from what I understand. Now you found some stuff for us, didn't you?
Just about the music things. Roger mentions that like the last thing he said to Bert was an old music line, or a line from an old song or something, and it's a little more coffee, a little more tea, or I have to put my glasses on to read it.
Okay.
Let's have another cup of coffee. Let's have another piece of pie, which is a Irving Berlin song from 1932, and Glenn Miller had a really popular recording of it in 42. And it was a song like during the Depression, and it's trouble's just a bubble, let's all sit around and watch it float by kind of thing. So it was just, sort of a Pollyanna song, and Roger was just using it as a, so you're just going to let all this stuff keep happening and just wait for it to blow over, and Bert was pretty much like, yeah, I am. And the other music thing was the song that Bert sings at the end. The Best Things in Life Are Free is from a musical of the same name, and I don't think I've ever heard that song, but I've heard the other two songs, which were Button Up Your Overcoat, which I know from the movie The Sure Thing.
Oh,
Button up your overcoat, take good care of yourself, you belong to me.
Oh,
and,
Elise, I didn't know you could sing.
Oh, yeah.
Wow,
and,
what a treat.
The other one was You're the Cream of My Coffee, which is another song that we heard growing up and was around all the time. Both of those are from that musical, which, as a classic film fan, I should know The Best Things in Life Are Free musical, but I do not. So I'm going to catch up on that one.
Well, for those of you who are new to the podcast, Elise is by far the biggest expert I know in classic films. So if anyone would know, would be you, Elise.
Well, no, there are people who are much more knowledgeable than I am, but between you and I'm the knowledgeable one in classic
That's what I was
films.
getting at. Yes, that's what I was getting at. And that it does say a lot. For those people that know me really well know that my parents are actually quite a bit older, and so I grew up watching classic film.
Oh, good.
Cary Grant is my favorite actor, so that's usually says enough for people. But I don't know nearly as much as you do. That is for sure. But yeah, best thing in life. By the way, I did find out too that the song "Best Things in Life Are Free" was used in an ad for Chase Bank, like right after the moon landing. So like I
Oh,
think
really?
like a week later they ran that spot. So I don't know if that influenced at all too about what song. I'm sure the song had a lot of meaning, and that's the reason why they picked that song as far as which one Bert was singing to Don. But that was kind of interesting that it happened. And the Wild Bunch movie opened in 1969, which we heard a reference to that movie as well, which was a western. They had so many violent scenes that the original cut had been changed because some of the scenes were so violent they actually cut it out.
Oh.
So that was kind of an interesting thing that I found out about the movie The Wild Bunch, which I don't believe I've seen. I can't believe maybe I haven't. I just don't remember it. I need to go back and look and see if I've seen that one or not. So that's all I have. I'm going to look real quick and see if we have anything new, because I know we already kind of touched on some of the questions. I know that we touched on the one we had on Facebook, and I'm looking right now to see, let me hit refresh and make sure that we have anything on Twitter as well. And then I don't see anything new. I'm trying to remember, Elise, I'm trying to remember, we didn't have any other questions, did we? I know Brian has been discussing here on our feed, talking a little bit about what's been going on with Ted. It sounds like he kind of agrees with some of the stuff we're saying. But hopefully, maybe, like he says, maybe Peggy and then we get back to you. You never know. That will be. We'll see, Brian. But thank you so much for joining us in some of our conversation here we've had. And thank you, everyone, too, that's been in the chat room today. I'm sorry I wasn't able to chat with you, but we've been so busy in our conversation here. I haven't had a chance to really pay much attention. But thank you for all those who joining us live. We really appreciate that. So, yeah, I don't have anything else, Elise, to close it out. But all I can say is thank you so much. This was an amazing episode to talk about. And the sad part, of course, is we won't have any new ones to talk about for a whole year.
No.
Well, we are going to continue. For those of you who are curious, what is going to happen to Madman Podcast? This is one of the few, if maybe even the only one, I'm not quite sure, but I think we're one of the few, if not the only podcast that will continue to bring out content throughout this long hiatus that we're going into. My goal is to at least try to do one or two shows or more a month if I can, at least one for sure. Elise, if you have time, maybe if you could come back, I'd love to do maybe an overview of this first half of the season. Maybe we could talk about some of our favorite and least favorite things about the episode if you want to do that.
Sure.
Otherwise, I mentioned like at the top of the episode, I'm working on trying to get some more interviews. So that will be something exciting we're going to have involved. I've got some other ideas on top of my head. I'd like to maybe do a retrospect of some of the greatest ads or pitches, at least, that has happened in Mad Men. I thought that'd be kind of fun. Maybe we could rank those. So I've got some ideas to have some fun with. Maybe we'll also do some more reviews of some older episodes again. That might be fun. Some especially ones maybe we've never covered on this episode on the show. So that would be fun. So just stay subscribed. Stay tuned in to the Mad Men Podcast. If you're not subscribed, make sure you do. Go to madmanpodcast.com. I've got all the links on how you can subscribe. Actually, just recently, Elise, I got us into TuneIn Radio, so you'll be able to listen to us on TuneIn Radio as well. So that's another new avenue that people can use. I know there's lots of different ways nowadays you can get podcasts on your mobile devices or even at home on your computer. We are pretty much in almost all of them. Now, the big ones, of course, iTunes. If you need to get subscribed to us in iTunes, just go to madmanpodcast.com/iTunes. And then for the video feed, for those of you who are loving the video feed, make sure you subscribe to that. It's madmanpodcast.com/YouTube, and you can subscribe to the channel and be able to watch some of the videos. I will try to throw in some videos also during the off-season, so that's not going away. So what I'm getting at, Elise, we're going to be around. Don't go anywhere. There'll be more Mad Men content for you guys to enjoy while we wait for 2015.
Yay!
And hopefully, Elise, between now and then, you won't learn to hate me and not want to be on the show. Hopefully you will come back. I've had lots of great responses saying that they love hearing your comments, love having you on the podcast, so I really appreciate you being on here.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you for having me, Jeremiah. I have fun doing it.
I'm so glad you're able to make it. I just thank you very much, by the way, all the people that have been out there sharing us on Facebook and Twitter. Really appreciate all that, guys, because that actually helps out a lot. Between that, you sharing to other people about the podcast, and of course going on to iTunes and places like that, giving us good reviews, definitely also helps. Anytime you want to send me feedback, please do at feedback@madmanpodcast.com. I love hearing your thoughts. I've already been getting a few emails for this finale, so that's great. Follow us on Twitter. It's at twitter.com/@madmancast. Of course, we also have a Facebook page, which is facebook.com/madmancast. Elise, why don't you make sure you tell everybody again how they can follow you on Twitter?
You can find me at Elise CD on Twitter, and you can find my blog, elisesramblings.com.
Yeah, and definitely make sure you follow Elise because she writes about lots of different things on her blog. I know recently you talked about a big contest people can have a chance to get into new Star Wars movies. So you're constantly talking about all kinds of great stuff. So
all fun, entertainment, geeky stuff on mine. I try to say it's like the best of television and film, and all the none of the garbage stuff, and just the stuff I like.
The good stuff.
The good stuff.
Yeah.
The good stuff.
Let's see. Last week you were busy doing the PBS thing, right?
Yeah. I love PBS. They've got amazing programming there, and OMAs, which is a charitable organization that's partnering with Disney and J.J. Abrams. For just $10, you can enter to win an opportunity to be in the Star Wars Episode 7 film. So check it out. Come on down.
Yeah, definitely check it out. And if you guys forget some of this stuff, go to our madmanpodcast.com and check out the About page. All of Elise's links are in there as well, so in case for some reason you forget that, you can go right there and find out where you can connect with her content. So, Elise, I guess that's it. That's the end for now. But we will be back, like I said, shortly. But hopefully you had yourself a great Memorial Day, as we're celebrating Memorial Day here in the United States. So,
take care, Jeremiah. Thanks for having me.
All right, you take care. And everyone, remember to stay mad.